Good morning from Bali. We are going to attempt today to try and show you in real time how we weigh the anchor, then we'll have the sailing bit, and then we'll have the dropping the anchor. So today is, it's 6:45, it's a little bit early to start thinking. We're leaving Bali today, we're heading to Java.
Yes, we haven't had our coffees yet, so we need to wake up. But yeah, so you're going to go at the front, aren't you?
Yeah.
And deal with the snubber, so we'll film a bit of that. And then I'll show you how we just knock the boat forwards to help bring the chain up. And yeah, right, well, should we do it then?
Let's do it.
All right. So while Liz goes to the front, I'm going to start the old engine and get the systems online.
So up the front here we've got the chain held by the snubber. So the first thing I do is I just take the rest of the snubber line off the line so it's nice and loose. And I get that ready along the deck, because the first thing I will do after that is bring that bit of chain up that's still got the snubber on it. Now, bringing up the chain, I think we mentioned this last week, isn't as simple on Esper as perhaps it is on other boats, because we flake it. And the chain lives in this anchor locker here, which is only like a third of the depth, well, probably a quarter of the depth here of the boat. And if you don't flake it, it all piles up into a great big knot and gets caught. So I need to flake it nice and neatly. And the other thing is that just before I do that, I bring the hose up, because that's going to help me, that's going to get in the way, and then once I'm finished, it will help me clear the deck. Right, are we ready to go?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, it's going to be noisy.
Oh, it came off, that's good.
Yes, it's doing this a lot these days. That's what I always try and aim for. It means there's less hanging over the edge of the boat trying to get hold of it. So it's now just slipped off nicely, and we're held with the chain. Oh, I have to get this. Okay, and for those watching and for those listening, the way we attach it to the chain is this Manson hook. Is that right, Mantus or Manson? I never can remember if it's a Mantus or a Manson. What does it say? It doesn't say anything. Anyway, the hook goes over the chain. It's a really tough hook. It just holds it on there. Originally there was a little piece of rubber that went round the other side of the chain once it was on. That didn't last 2 minutes. You don't really need it, to be honest, if you've got your chain on properly. So that's that. Get that out of the way. Normally Jamie coils that while I'm bringing up the anchor, but he's on the camera today, so the rest of it, here we go. Now you'll see, I've got my head quite close to the chain here in the anchor locker, and I'm looking over the side at the same time, so I'm keeping an eye on what's coming up out of the ocean, and I can see every bit of chain as it comes up, so if there are any problems with the chain, I can identify them pretty quickly. Right, off we go again. As I'm counting the chain up, and it's the same with when I'm counting the chain down, we have markers, we have physical markers on the chain every 10 metres. So I'm looking now at one that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 markers, telling me that we've got 50 metres of chain to go.
We should also say that what we do is we stop at every 10 metres.
Yep.
Just to give the batteries and the windlass a little rest. So providing the conditions aren't horrific, conditions like this where it's nice and flat, every 10 metres we stop. This also allows the boat to move forward slightly by itself, but I'm going to go back to the helm now, because I may need to start knocking the boat forwards.
Yeah, so go on. What I was going to say is I keep an eye on the chain, and if it gets tough, if it gets stiff, then I'll call back to Jamie and say just knock it forward. But we're all right at the moment because it's going straight down, so I can see it's quite straightforward. But that's what we say at the beginning. Let's see how it goes. So we're on 50 metres, so I'll stop on 40.
So when as she's bringing it up, I tend to knock the boat forwards a little, and then on the next break we'll check the chain, make sure that it's not under strain, and then the other thing that I do is I have a marker on my phone which shows me exactly where the anchor is, because I make that marker when we drop the anchor. So I check the phone as we're going forwards, and I can see roughly where the anchor is. So this just allows us to move the boat into position. But in these kind of conditions, the boat tends to always be moving forwards along the line of the chain.
Okay, I should
Okay.
continue. Jamie's not normally up here, but he's doing all this rabbiting on, and I don't, so I haven't moved the chain because it's so noisy. But we're going to go again now. So we're on 40. Okay, we're nearly on 30. It's getting a little stiff, so I'll get Jamie just to knock it forward when I get this line off. Can you knock it forward, please?
Yep. Okay. Sorry, I wandered forwards and now back to the cockpit. So one of the tricks, especially with an anchor like a Rockner, which sticks like glue, is that you want to drive over it. So the idea is that if you imagine that's ploughed in to the mud as we went backwards, by driving forwards, you're effectively pulling the anchor up over the top of itself and hopefully releasing it. You imagine its nose dug in, it releases that nose by driving over the top of it. So this is one of the reasons for driving forwards as the anchor's coming up. Okay?
Okay. So I've got that piece of thin fishing line, most of it off, but it's the hook on the end of it just got me.
What are we on?
Yeah, we're nearly there now. It's just come up really quickly, and I'm ready to bring the chain over. I'm sorry, I'm ready to bring the anchor over. Do you want to come and film it?
So you're saying the anchor's off the bottom?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, well we have to be quick.
Normally I tell you
because
that.
obviously now the boat is moving, being blown by the wind, and we don't want to blow onto the reef. So
it's
fire
nice,
away, go.
nice clear water. There she is. There's our Rockner anchor. So I'll clean up here if you want to get going.
Yep. Lucky to see that there isn't actually too much mud down there. Normally on the chain you get covered in mud. That's why we put the hose down there, to make sure that we could hose the thing down. But there we go. Right, I have now got to tend to the helming of the boat. Now this is lovely anchorage, as you know. It's quite tight though, so with a few reefs dotted around and some mooring buoys, so we just need to follow our track out. As you know, we don't have a chart plotter. Just give me a sec while I just put this down, the camera down. I'm putting the chart plot, my phone in the little holder here by the helm, just so I can keep an eye on my track as we go out. And meanwhile, as Liz has got the hose out, I can smell that smell of sulphur, dirty seawater that's been sitting in that hose pipe. But that was it. That was pretty straightforward. Sometimes the anchor digs so hard that you have to drive over it a number of times at different angles.
There's one more thing, Jamie, just to let them all know, is once the anchor is up and it's fastened, I then double secure it with a small rope that runs through the anchor and back up through the boat, through the bow roller, so that if the anchor chain or the windlass were to come loose, the anchor doesn't go cascading outside the boat when we're sailing.
Yeah, so we tend to do that on longer passages, or if the weather's a bit rough.
Yeah.
And the anchor gets knocked by waves.
Yeah. What do we think? Do we want to do it today?
I think we should be all right today. We're only doing 25 miles.
Yeah,
so...
it's a simple enough thing to do on passage if I need to. Hopefully that has come through, and those of you watching saw what we were doing, and those listening understood what the hell we were trying to describe to you. One of the things I did say was that I brought that chain up. Attached to it was a piece of fishing wire. I've got it here for those watching. It's got a nasty little 3-pronged hook in it, which I managed to get into my finger as I was trying to get it off the chain. Anyway, I've given it a good old wash. Yeah, so this is one of the advantages of being at the front when the chain's coming up. You can see everything that's going on. We've brought up boxes, doors, canoes, all kinds of wildlife, and it's good to be out there to check it, to see if you can sort it out.
Sorry, I'm distracted because we've just lost a bit of wind. We got the sails out straight away, by the way, and we're doing a good 5.5 knots, which is great, but it's just flogging a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, canoes. We did bring up a canoe once, believe it or not, a wooden canoe.
And we brought that door up in Terempa, I think. Was it a door?
We've brought all sorts of things, nappies, jeans, T-shirts, yeah.
We're going to talk about anchor alarms, and we're going to do it now rather than at the end, because we know by the time we've dropped the hook we're always too hot and bothered, and the last thing we want to do is sit down and talk to camera. So we thought we would answer a question that we had from one of our viewers on anchor alarms. Take it away.
We did cover it briefly. So we did an episode a few weeks ago on different apps, and the one thing that we didn't include was anchor alarms, and a few people in the comments said, well, what about anchor alarm apps? Well, we've never used an anchor alarm. We just feel that over the years you sort of build a sixth sense, and of course there's two of us as well, so we're always keeping an eye on the anchor, checking the snubber, make sure the snubber's still on, and of course if the weather picks up during the night, then we end up getting on anchor watch, even in an anchorage.
Didn't we use an anchor alarm when we originally... Didn't we just use the ship's computer occasionally at the very beginning?
I think we used a laptop, didn't we? I can't remember.
Because I know we did at the very beginning, because I think anchor alarms, when you start out, are a good backup. But I do agree that you do eventually develop a sixth sense, and you know when you need to start worrying.
Yes.
When you're on land, or when you're on the boat.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, there are free apps out there. So the one in particular that we were recommended is Anchor Lite. That's the free version. There is a paid version. I think quite often with these apps, it's always worth buying the paid version because they're not that expensive and you get a few extra features. And I've tried it. I tried Anchor Lite, and
What happened?
it's great. It works, and it gives you that extra peace of mind. And I think, as you say, that's especially important if you're starting out, maybe if you're a solo sailor, and perhaps if also you're a heavy sleeper and
Yes.
you just don't wake up.
Yes. But people use them when they're on shore, don't they? So if they've gone off somewhere, is that right? The app will tell you that your boat's moving.
No, because it's working it's working on the phone's GPS.
Oh.
Okay, but I think, as we said previously in that podcast on apps, there are apps out there that allow you to connect to a Wi-Fi network,
Right.
which you leave running on the boat.
Right, so you can see if your boat's dragging. So you're on land, you can see your boat's dragging.
Yeah, but I imagine that kind of thing you've got to pay for, plus you've got to
Yeah.
have the hardware to set it
Yeah,
up. But at least with something like Anchor Lite, it's free and it's worth trying out. And hey, why not? It's worth giving a go, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think we need to go back to your point about learning from doing. So basically, we did learn that when we're on land and the wind kicks up, and if the wind is kicking up in a certain direction, not the direction you would expect, you know there's going to be slop, you know there's going to be stuff coming into the anchorage, it could really muck up your lovely, beautiful laid anchor. And we've been in situations where we've been on the beach in a bar with mates, with other cruisers, all having a nice time, then suddenly that will happen. Circumstances will change, and you'll just see immediately beer glasses on the table, everybody on the dinghy straight out to their boats, because you know that you need to be on the boat and you need to be looking at what's going on, because the chances are your anchor will pick up, drag and move, which is all fine, it's supposed to do that, but you can occasionally get some problems where it doesn't reset. I wanted to make that point.
Okay, point made, I think.
Yeah, and then when you're on the boat, also, it's funny, I'm quite a heavy sleeper, you wake much more quickly than I do. But even I get woken up when I hear that the slapping sounds on the boat are different to when I fell asleep. So if you've suddenly got it coming in sideways, you know about it.
Oh, we've reached our next waypoint. By the way, we've just had a cracking sail. You will see that eventually in one of our catch-up vlogs. But right now we're coming across the northeast tip of Java. And soon we're going to be doing the last bit of anchoring, which we wanted to show you, which is actually scoping out an anchorage and deploying the anchor.
But before that, here's the vlog which shows us testing our brand new steering and rudder system. Wow, it was really exciting. Here we are leaving, finally, Madana Bay Marina. We arrived here reluctantly earlier in the year, at the end of the summer, because of a steering problem and a autopilot problem. And we ended up being here for far longer than we ever anticipated, as you will know. But we're away. Let's have a quick recap of our plans. Post-Covid, we left Sabah in Borneo and got Esper to Lombok in Indonesia, where we hauled out. After sorting out some engine issues and dropping back in the water, we spent last year's wet season going east to some of the wonderful Lesser Sunda Islands, like Komodo. After turning round to head back west, it was our intention to let the southeast trades push us up the Java Sea. But at this point we developed steering issues. Not wanting to make a 1,200-mile passage with a stiff helm and no autopilot, We did the right thing and hauled out again, but this meant we lost our weather window. Roll on to earlier this year, and we're back in the water with a renovated rudder and new steering system, which means we're ready to make the passage to Malaysia. We intend to bring our vlogs right into the present, but not before showing you our test sail, followed by a final visit to one of our favourite areas for cruising.
It's nice just to get a couple of sails out, even if we're motoring, we're motor sailing, but always good to get sails out, isn't it? If for no other reason, just to check they haven't grown any mould. It is very close to the wind though, so we can't really sail at the moment. What I found was that the leech of the staysail was flapping. Now this will tend to happen anyway if you're very close to the wind. It's very difficult to obviously keep that sail full. But also if that leech is flapping, quite often it's your leech line that needs tightening. So that's a line that runs down the entire length of the leech and comes to the bottom of the sail, and you can literally just pull it down nice and tight, and that should, quite often, it will actually prevent that back edge of the sail from flapping, which I've just done, and it's worked, sort of. How's it looking?
Right there. Have a look. Look at all this, don't stand on it.
Look at all this. That's rust.
Try not to stand on it, it's all around here. You can see down there.
So I need to back up.
Moving. Have you watched it all?
No, we need to back up. Well, that was Sengigi, and there was quite a storm last night when we got back to the boat. So we went ashore, did some shopping. We basically accomplished what we wanted to do, which is do some shopping. Because obviously down in Gili, Gede, you don't have access to things like cheese. So we did our shopping, got very wet getting back into the dinghy. We knew it would be like this. It was quite a rolly anchorage. I mean, we slept fine. There's one other boat there that we know. I think he's enjoying the delights of the beachside bars in the evening. Not our thing, so we're pushing on to Gili Gede. But huge squall last night. I mean, massive thunderstorm, lightning, very, very close lightning actually, sort of 1 second delay between the flash and the crack. And as I look back now over Lombok, there's huge cloud formation. This is all just localised, and we noticed that the winds are still, well, the clouds are moving from the east, west, going westwards, which is a bit odd. The wind, of course, is on the nose.
Second day now since we've left the marina, and it's been glorious day today, although I have to be honest and say that I did spend quite a lot of time down below preparing some lunch and tomorrow, some fresh bread for tomorrow. But still lovely to be out here, still lovely, even though we're not sailing because we cannot get anywhere, there's not enough wind. The joy of being back on the boat is just unbelievable. So, yeah. I don't know what I was going to say, why it was so important that I needed to speak. But anyway, here I am sailing with Jamie on Esper, and we are loving it.
We are now currently in 13 metres of water, having just been in something like 900 metres. There's a very shallow patch that runs across the top of this part of Lombok. And in fact, just over there is the Wallace Line.
The Wallace Line was first drawn by the naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace, who noticed an invisible wildlife boundary between the Asian mainland side to the west and the Australasian side to the east. In simple terms, it starts from the Indian Ocean, running through the Lombok Strait between Bali and Lombok, then extends northwards through the Makassar Strait and east into the Philippine Sea. Although no longer regarded as a serious regional boundary by most scientists, it does show a marked change in the fauna, with very different fish, bird and mammal species on each side. For the cruiser, the Wallace Line means huge depths of 1 kilometre or more dividing Lombok from Bali, where inconsistent and unpredictable heavy currents can make crossing a challenge. I've just put the boat in standby, which means that now it's hand steering, and this is how we now steer. Really smoothly. There is not a crunch, not a delay. It is absolutely like a new boat. So that was one of the things we did while we were on the hard. I worked quite a lot with young Hendro while Jamie was away. So there's new cables all the way through. It's the pulleys that were the big problem. They were all jammed up. Separated them all out, cleaned them all up. He's put them all back together, and now it's like steering a different boat. As I say, it's absolutely fantastic. A couple of other things. We've managed to get from Madana Bay to here. This is Gili. So that was 3 hours yesterday, 4 hours today, something like that, maybe. Total of about 6 or 7 hours. Using the autopilot the whole way, and the autopilot has just behaved impeccably. So all that hard work and all that complaining and all that bitterness has paid off in that now we have an almost new boat. Now the other really important thing to point out is this. Look. So we've got two chart plotters. We've got the really big, enormous one down below, which is fantastic and fine and does everything. But up here we had a second smaller one, and it had stopped working altogether. So the last 2 days Jamie's been using phones to do all our navigation, which of course you can do. You don't actually need a chart plotter anymore. But our chart plotter is currently with the electricians, who are having a go at mending it, and we'll find out in the next few days if they were able to do it.
Marina Del Ray is a comfortable haven in southwest Lombok with year-round protection. We've covered this area before, but we wanted to give a nod of appreciation to the staff here. It was a shock to us all when Ray Fontaine, the owner, passed away earlier this year, but the reins have been taken up by his son James. What makes this place special are the staff, who've been professionally trained with a focus on customer service for visiting cruisers. Hopefully you'll have seen our episode on Gili, which highlights the attractions of this island and why Marina Del Ray is a good launch point to explore from. As you already know, it's our plan to bring you up to date with real-time vlogs, but we're going to take one last visit to possibly our favourite anchorage in the whole of Indonesia in the next episode, before we bring you slap bang into the present.
Right, we've arrived in our anchorage. It is very windy, so we apologise in advance if we're going to get wind sounds. I'll do my best to get rid of them. So one thing that I wanted to mention, when you come into any anchorage, is do your research. Get as much information on the anchorage as possible before you come in. So look at your navigation apps, look at satellite, read pilot guides. The more information you have about a place, the better.
No foreign land.
No foreign land, of course. Coincidentally, actually, we went for this one because our friend Ray, who came up a month or so before us, put a mark in no foreign land. And when I checked it on Navionics, turns out there's a number of anchor marks here. So this is obviously a known anchorage. It was a very tight entrance, a little bit of roll, but we are in and we're now just scoping it out. So the next thing I would suggest doing is to measure the distance. So I know that it's 300 metres at the narrowest point here, which is plenty of room to drop the hook and to swing. Now I could drop it here, but actually it looks a bit more fun a bit further in, closer to the beach there. You all right?
Ready when you are.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna motor in a little bit further.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, do you know what length of chain you want?
We're only in 8 metres, so we'll start with 30.
Yep, 30. Okay.
Yeah, so quite often that's what we do, is we'll put the minimum depth down of chain, 3 times scope, let it kind of settle until we're sort of almost pulling back on it, put out the extra chain, because we almost always put out at least 4 times, if not 5 times scope, and then put the snubber on, and then we put the boat hard into a stern just to dig that anchor in. But we don't like putting it in astern too hard without the snubber because of course that puts a lot of strain on the windlass. Just gonna, you can hear me revving the engine up. I'm just kicking the boat around because we've got quite a bit of wind that's pushing us sideways back onto that reef, but we've got plenty of room here, so it's all good. 7.5 metres. It's a pleasure anchoring in sub 10 metres. In Indonesia, that's a rarity. So I'm just going to check Navionics and see what these other anchor marks. I haven't actually looked at these anchor marks. Okay, so they've gone quite far in, so I think we can go another, just tell Liz, we'll go in another 200 metres. So for those who are listening only, I will describe this as a lagoon almost. We've got Java mainland on one side, which is all mangrove. It's just mangrove, no beach, it's just the sea right up to the mangrove. But then on the other side, we've got lots and lots of beaches actually. And there's even a couple of huts, which are probably fishing huts. And then to our port beam is the reef that we've just come around.
Well, apologies for the noise. I'm up the front and of course I've got the wind straight at me because we're anchoring. I've just turned my back to the wind and I'm hoping you can hear this. If not, we'll put captions up. So the first thing I do is I slightly release the chain so it's got a little bit of give in it. I open up the hatches and I pull out the hose. So it's kind of reverse of everything we did before. I have the snubber up here ready, but we don't use that until the anchor's down and in. So I now wait for Jamie to give me the signal to drop the anchor. We've already established we're going to put 30 metres of chain out. As it goes out, it's easier. I don't have to flake it out, it just goes straight out, but I count it out. So at every 10 metre mark, I'll hold my hand up and show him how many metres have gone out and what we're at. When we get to 30, we stop. Then he makes a decision. And he normally says, put a bit more out, but you never know, might not this time. So once we're there and we're ready, we then bear down on the anchor. We pull on the anchor to make sure it's bedded in, and then we put the snubber in and do it properly, and then we should be done.
We're in 7.5 metres, so if we put out 30 now.
Okay, we're going to put out 30 and I'm going to turn to wind. Ten.
Do your marker. Liz?
I just did it.
So what normally happens is I'm in the
20.
cockpit and Liz, you can see behind me, she holds out her fingers, so she gives one finger for 10, two for 20 and so on, so I can see right back from the cockpit how much chain she's putting out. So the wind is blowing us already. Hopefully that will help set the anchor initially.
Okay, that's 30 metres of chain out with a 30 metre mark on top, and I reckon that's probably enough. Nobody here, plenty of room. What do you think?
Yeah, put out another 5 and then the snubber.
What did I tell you? He always says, put out another plan. That's the 5 metres out. Now, you've seen the chain and you've seen the windlass, Astrid. We're going to show you now the snubber.
So the idea is that the anchor should, because of this wind, should already have bitten, and we are probably already at anchor, but
Yeah.
we're not going to put it into a stern until we've got that snubber on.
So it's out to starboard at the moment.
So for those listening only, I'm looking at Liz's bum, because I can't get the camera close to,
I know, it does blot out the sun. So,
Here
how
we go.
much snubber do we want?
Okay, sort of medium size, I suppose. Fairly long. Now, if you're looking, you can see we've already Oh,
I can feel the anchor moving.
it's moving, isn't it? It's not biting. So we'll put the snubber on and then we'll put it in astern.
Right, so to put the snubber on, you clip it onto the front. We were going to look up what it is, a mantis or a mantis hook. We didn't. Anyway, the anchor hook is on the chain. I've now got about 3 meters of snubber, and I'm holding it fast onto the deck. So now I drop the chain until I feel that snubber bite. Let's do it. So the snubber's now got the chain, and I'm going to cleat it off.
Do you want to put a bit more chain out?
No, that's it.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
Right, now I can see it's not biting, so I'm going to go back to the helm and I need you to keep an eye on it, yeah?
So I generally watch the chain. You can hear it. I'd say it's biting. And then and you do your transits.
Once again, apologies for the wind.
The chain is out to port, not ahead.
So I'm walking back to the cockpit now and I'm going to put the boat into astern. Now, the anchor normally bites straight away, but we could see it was jumping. You see the chain is juddering. That means the anchor is not biting and it's actually bouncing along the bottom of the seabed. So let's put this into astern. And both Liz and I then take transits. So we find somewhere on the boat, like the back end of the bimini, and this here. Okay. So what you can't see is Liz is now raising her arm to show. What she does is at the front, she shows the angle of the chain. So she keeps her arm by her side, and then as the chain comes up, she lifts her arm up. When her arm is 90 degrees pointing out, that means the chain is fully out. She's now giving me the thumbs up. Are you happy? Okay. Yeah, so sorry, we both take transits. Of course, we all know about transits, and this is the time when you take them. And when that boat is in astern, so it's under engine, it's pulling back on that anchor and the snubber effectively. And when the transits stop, that's when we know that it's bitten. Liz is now indicating me to come up to the front again because she wants to show you something. It's so windy though. What are you showing me?
Just showing you what we do with the boat. We don't leave any boats lying around on deck.
Okay, what she's explaining is she's coiling the line because we never like leaving loose lines around, so that's the remainder of the snubber she's coiling up, and then she'll probably pop the hose pipe back inside the anchor locker.
Nice and loose so we can get rid of it quickly. You say it.
Yeah. Now you can see the chain, if you're watching, you can see that chain is loose. That's because the snubber has got it. Now that is what we check in the evening, so if we wander around the deck at night, as long as that chain is loose, you know that the snubber is holding. Finally, what I then do, and in fact what I normally do while Liz is doing this, is to mark where we've dropped the anchor on Alpine Quest, which is our satellite navigation app that we use. And I try to put it roughly where the anchor was actually dropped, because if you then swing around, you know exactly how far away you are from the anchor, and of course if you drag, you know exactly how far you've dragged as well. So rather than putting the anchor mark where the boat ends up, I tend to put the anchor mark where we think we've dropped it. It's much easier to do from the cockpit when Liz is at the front because I know exactly where we've dropped it. And as I look at our track on Alpine Quest, I can see a big, what looks like a U-turn. We went forwards, dropped the hook, and then we've backed up. So there we go.
Engine off.
Engine off.
Lovely Astrid, one of our patrons, did say, how do we use the snubber, and wanted to know a little bit more about that. So I hope, Astrid, we've answered your question there. And if you've got any more questions, let me know. And to everybody watching, I hope we answered your questions. You've got a bit clearer understanding of our anchor setup.
Yeah, I'm just sorry it wasn't under sort of laboratory conditions. There was a lot of wind there, wasn't there? So it was a little bit frantic. But I think the only difference is that quite often I'm actually at the helm and you're at the front. And sometimes it's easier to communicate just by hand signals. And that's what Liz was doing as she dropped the chain. She was able to tell me how many metres have gone out, which is really important.
But I think it gives people a nice idea of roughly what it's like in real conditions, in real time, to anchor a boat.
Bye.